science, I studied mechanical engineering. And then in my master's, I studied technology and policy, which was under data science. And then the bullets I listed there are just some of the key things that whenever people ask me about going into tech or anything career advice, the number one thing I say is lift as you climb, which is why I'm here, is making sure to bring others up with you as you progress. And the other three are three things that I'll talk about throughout this presentation that I learned from the military and I'm applying in my tech role today. So this is a Mentimeter, the presentation I'm showing. If you haven't used it before, you can go to menti.com and put in this code to join and participate. Hopefully this can be interactive, and if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to go into specifics because I can, talk about anything really, but I have some slides ready to go through my career path and everything. So yeah, if you are able to go to that link and want to join, that'd be great. So once I do a participation slide, we'll see if that's working. So I think most of you in this community are in college, is that correct? If you're looking for careers now or in college, just put it in the chat just so I have a frame of reference of where you guys are at. So that's why I wanted to start with what I did when I was in college. So I went to West Point, which is the military academy. Okay, cool, seeing in the chat, just graduated. This is a picture of me and my best friend when we graduated back in 2017. Seems like forever ago now. And basically my first career was in the Army as an officer. That's what happens when you get out of West Point. My second career is in tech and what I'm doing now. And one of the reasons for those changes was that the military was a lot. So a lot of life and family decisions came into those decisions to move from an Army career that requires you to move around a lot to this career I have now, which is super flexible, great work-life balance. So that's just a key difference in the two kind of career paths I have. So what changed when going into tech? In terms of the mission I had and the goals I had, obviously in the Army, that was kind of given to me. So one of the hard parts of going into my next career was actually figuring out what I wanted to do. I always felt like you had to have an answer of like, this is what I'm good at, this is what's gonna make me money, or whatever goals I have. So it kind of took a while for me to figure out like, hey, what do I really want to do with my life? And so that's where I was at in, even my first career or my second career now at Microsoft. And then obviously for priorities at Microsoft, a lot of those same values were transferred over, but not everything was the same, especially in terms of working with other people. In the Army, you were able to kind of, I would say, rely on each other a little bit more. So I'll talk about that later if anyone's interested in government type roles and what the difference is between that. But the major thing I wanted to highlight here in career changes, or when you're looking at what career you want to do, is that you do have to be adaptable. For you guys, I know it's such a hard time right now for hiring and roles. And so I think adaptability is going to be huge in terms of like, even though you're looking for this type of role, this is the entry point to eventually get there. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind, is that, if you don't get the first role you applied for, or the job you really wanted and you thought you were a great fit for, that it might be due to totally external factors, and you just have to pivot into what there are positions that they're hiring for. At the end of the day, it's the head count is what people call it when hiring managers have positions that they're hiring for. It's really the head count that matters. It's usually not even about you, about the company, but do they have that position? And sometimes you just have to look for the open positions. So same with that, being open-minded in terms of adjusting to different roles. So I'll talk about the role that I am in now, which is more in sales, but I actually ended up liking it even though I'm more of a technical person. And obviously resilience, because I've been rejected so many times. I didn't get a lot of jobs and roles that I thought I would be good for. So just like, I know now that in the background when they put up positions, they already have someone in mind, or it ends up getting canceled. So that's just one of the like the corporate things that I had no idea about, but I wanted to make sure that you guys know, there's so many reasons that you can't control for not getting a job. And then one thing that I didn't value as much as I should have was networking from the start. So I kind of made friends with people like me, and I didn't like a lot of other people. So the networking part is something I've learned along the way, but it's so important, and I'll go into that more later. And the code should come up here again. Yeah, up at the top. Okay, so a little bit more about my first career position was at MIT. I was doing graduate student research. So if you're ever looking at doing higher education or other type of research, go into the fellowship opportunities that different schools have. A lot of my classmates did RA while doing their program. So that's what I did through the military, funding it at MIT, and I did research in sort of data science, sort of mechanical engineering. I always did a mix of technology and policy, like I mentioned. And then the one thing about graduate student research is that obviously it's super hard, and everyone's there hoping to accomplish, get my degree, do well. So one of the things that I primarily learned was humility. I met so many smart people, and at first that made it hard for me to, keep working hard. Honestly, it was like imposter syndrome. So, whenever you're into a new environment, even if you were like the best person in your town or your high school, it's going to be way harder. But that's just part of it growing. As long as if you're struggling and growing, then you're moving forward. So that's the main thing that I learned while doing graduate school, because there were definitely hard moments. The second part, one of the most important things about if you're looking at graduate research is the mentor or advisor you pick. So, when I was at school, I kind of put my head down, was focused on doing tests, doing this work. But one of the real values of this was that I should have done while at school was seek out more mentors and learn from other people who've been there for a while. And that goes into the value of, the name of the school you go to, the network that you build. I just didn't do that from the start that I wish I had. Like right now, I could reach out back to my MIT advisor asking about roles or asking about, career advice, if I had kept up those relationships. So that's one thing that I just didn't know what to do while I was in school. And I mean, honestly, you're just so focused on homework and everything that it didn't come across to me. But I wish I had done that. Um, and then the other thing, grad school is a really good in between if you have the opportunity to go. From going from school to your first job, because it gives you like a ramp of like how to work, when you need a break, what kind of challenges you want to seek. So for me, it was a really good opportunity to have like some responsibility, but not like the full responsibilities of a job like I have now. Okay, cool. So if you're interested in military and government positions, you can go in the code and put in what you think of when I say military, what you're ever looking for in terms of careers in the government or similar type of work. And if there's interest in that, I'll talk more about it. But if not, then we can move on. Yeah, that's a really good one. Discipline was huge. I definitely learned a lot about routines and rules, and even to this day, that discipline has helped me out when I get lazy. I did do an internship at NASA, so the military gives you a lot of pathways to other government positions that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I can also talk about the NASA internship I did if people are interested in the research or the opportunities there. I love the uptight one. That is absolutely true. As a woman in the military, it was definitely hard to adjust to that type of culture, just very different from where I was at. But, it's a little bit easier when you're just given, like, do this and don't do this. that clarity was helpful for me in terms of like, okay, if I do this and I do my job and that means I do well, then I'm good. Oh my God, David Goggins. Yes. I don't know if you've read his book or where you know him from or the memes, but um, yeah, he's like the toxic version of the military for me. So hopefully you're putting that that as an inspiration. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for participating, guys. Yeah, the other one on there, strategic thinking is huge in the military. That's a really good skill that you develop because you just have to when you're in those positions, thinking about the causes and effects of your decisions. So yeah, strategic thinking is something that I almost always bring up in interviews, in what I'm doing, as one of my skill sets. So that's a really good one to point out. Okay, cool. So, just really quick, since this is my background, is there are a lot of engineering and math and other types of opportunities for computer science interested people in the military. Obviously, it's not for anyone. It's not for everyone, in terms of, lifestyle, fitness requirements, all this stuff. But if you are interested in that route, I could definitely provide more advice and any uh, answers for questions on that. So separate from being part of the military, either as reserve or National Guard, which is kind of like it's your side hustle and you get money for going once a month to do stuff. But again, you don't have to be in the military. There's also opportunities in the government for civilians. So people not in the military, we call them civilians. You can work in government positions, like I mentioned, in NASA and other agencies using your CS degree. And this is a really good opportunity for people looking for entry level roles because the government really values that STEM background and has a lot of opportunities to start for entry level roles. So one of the links I'll share eventually with the page I have for all the links, depending on what you guys are interested in, is cybersecurity. As you can imagine, is huge in the military and government. And so if you're in that space, this is a great pathway for getting experience, for getting certifications, for learning about, the latest and the current trends in cybersecurity that are from the military. Ooh, civilian and cyber. Woohoo, love it. Yes, and I think it's an awesome opportunity for women because there's so much growing in the cybersecurity space. And if you have those certs, like if you're just technically good, you can become an expert, and it doesn't matter if you're the only woman in the room. Like you're the expert in that space, you're trusted, and you're saving lives ultimately, especially in the government, but saving XYZ for a company, even if you're doing cybersecurity elsewhere. So super interesting space. I am not particularly in it, but I think it's the one of the things that I see a lot of positions open for. So I always recommend that as if you're interested in going that route. Okay, cool. So this is a quick things I've learned. So I did 6 years in the military, and then I've been over 1 year at Microsoft. Like what's actually useful from all this? So I mentioned this a little bit, but saying yes and no, is a hard thing for women. Like I always had a hard time saying no to certain things. But there's things you can say yes to that are gonna be hard, that you won't feel ready for, but that will help you grow. And when I did those things, that is when I, met other people, got other opportunities. Like that was the real stepping ladder to going to the position I'm at now. So if I had stayed, in kind of what I knew, what I was comfortable in, I wouldn't have advanced or gotten other opportunities that I didn't even know existed. And then also, as I mentioned, relationships are so important. I really got my role at Microsoft through networking, through other veterans that I knew at Microsoft that recommended me for the role. I think nowadays, especially with AI use of applying and reviewing, referrals are going to be so much more important, and who you know has always been important, and it's still going to be even more important with AI. So, yeah, I struggled with this initially because I was very, I don't even know, like hard-headed or like thought I knew everything. Um, so it was a struggle for me to ask for help, to, listen to other people. But now I know that those relationships are so important to just the information you have. Obviously, the more info you have, the more connections you have, the more knowledge you have, just the more opportunities you're going to have. And what I always tell people who ask me about getting into Microsoft and, they talk to people, but it doesn't go anywhere, is that it is transactional. Like relationships can be transactional. But if you're able to communicate, some value, some genuine interest, it's beneficial for both of you. Like me, if you reach out to me, I want to help you. So you're not bothering me by asking for help. You're not bothering me by saying, hey, can you refer me? If anything, that helps me out, especially if I know you and know how you work, then I provide a good reference to whatever company. So I think acknowledging that transactional piece, not feeling bad about it, and thinking how you can help the other person out always helps if you struggle with networking like I did. And then, yeah, like I said, each role taught me something. At MIT, learned humility. In the Army, like you guys said, discipline, all this stuff about how to get stuff done. And I'm really able to use that at Microsoft today to, I think, stand out from some of my other coworkers. That has helped me a lot, especially in the AI field, because there's so much going on with AI. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. So when I say AI, that can mean a lot of things. For Microsoft, I specifically work in cloud and AI platforms. So when you hear Microsoft, you might think Copilot, some of the models we have. We work mostly with enterprises and big customers to implement AI solutions. So like currently, I'm working with a customer to build out an agent that helps search through their knowledge bases. So when I say AI, that's what I reference. But obviously, AI can mean, classic machine learning, more statistic, cluster analysis, other types of inferences. It doesn't have to mean generative AI and, whatever ChatGPT or other types of large language models are doing. So there's a lot in that space, even though the bubble right now is in the generative AI. So for those interested in AI, I definitely recommend this book, Empire of AI by Karen Howe. It is a really good coverage of, here's the technical baseline. So like if you went to MIT, you would learn about the deep learning, the TensorFlow libraries, if you guys work in this space. But it's always so good to consider beyond that, what's the policy implications of this technology? How is this technology actually being used? Is it fair for how it's being distributed? So those are some of the things that are important to businesses like Microsoft, but I think just to anyone who's using it daily. And I do encourage people to use it, even though there are harms, there are biases. It's like any other technology, like the internet. If you're not going to use the internet, you're probably missing out on some opportunities. So that's one of the links or one of the references for AI that I always reference to people to look at, because it gives you a broader scope beyond just the technology aspect of it, but to consider the frameworks around it that will affect society, companies. So for Microsoft, we have what's called a responsible AI policy, and that's because people aren't going to buy or use our systems and models if it's not safe or fair. Like they don't want to end up in some sort of litigation, some sort of news of the AI use resulted in something bad happening, which is possible. The technology is dangerous. And so having that policy and governance aspect is not only important because we should value that personally at an individual level, but it does matter at the end of the day for business. You want something you can trust. That's the main word we usually use. Okay, cool. So I've talked a lot, but I want to get your guys' input on what we want to dig even more into. So go to the mentee.com, use that code, and type in what you want to learn more about. And this will help me figure out what of all the things I've talked about to focus in more. So if you're able to see the link, I think I can copy the link too. Okay, cool. Relationship building. Okay. Yeah, manager relationships are it's like a balancing scale because I feel like it's also different if you have a millennial manager versus like Gen X or older. Just the work styles and even the language you guys use could be very different. So with my manager, the first one I had, he was much older. Like I could tell, he's an expert, very knowledgeable across Microsoft in the field. This is at Microsoft. And so for him, I knew to be more concise. Here's exactly what I'm doing. And the major thing you want to know about is what's his or hers bottom line. So what do they get evaluated on? What do they make more money out of? Especially if you're working in corporate. But in general, know what your manager's priorities are and make sure whatever you're communicating ties to those. It doesn't have to be direct, but at the end of the day, they're wondering how to do their job better and how to ensure you're contributing to that. So that's the relationship among managers. That worked for me in the military, works now in Microsoft. The more you're aligned to their priorities and that you understand them, the better you'll be at your job. And then if you want to go next level, start thinking about what their manager is doing and what their priorities are. And that's a really easy way to kind of get promoted, get highlighted, because now you're influencing things at higher levels. And that's what they look for when they're considering, who's a top performer, who to promote. Okay, let me look. Military to Microsoft, skills. Okay, cool. So I'll talk a little bit about how I got to working in the interview process. So the military, when you're getting out, you are eligible to do an internship. So you can go to a company and learn about that role, learn about regular jobs and civilian life for like a couple months. So I did that both with NASA and Microsoft. So I pretty much did an internship with them. And that's, one of the best ways to get into a company, I'm sure you guys know, is to start at the internship level. You learn about the culture, the networking piece is super important because I had direct access to people at Microsoft. And so I was talking to people 8 to 10 calls per day. That was like my networking. It was hard work. And so that's the transition from military to Microsoft was doing that internship. I had a master's degree. They definitely look for higher education for certain types of technical roles. And it was really the networking piece that actually connected those dots from the military to Microsoft. And then the interview process for that, at NASA, I'll post a couple links, but they have a pathways program and an internship program. While you're still in school, you can work, I think, part-time or internship at different NASA centers. So if you're near one, that's a really good opportunity to get into that space. And the interview process for that, everything that NASA posts is on usajobs.com. So you apply there, you get contacted first by a recruiter, and then you go into the interview loops they have, which can vary by department. For mine, I was talking to a panel of like 5 or 6 people, and they asked me questions like, how would you plan a journey to Jupiter? It was something crazy like that. So NASA was interesting and exciting in terms of the interview process. They definitely ask you technical questions like what you're thinking, but that was specifically for the group I was at, so that'll vary by what you're looking to do. And the Microsoft was pretty similar. On our career site, you can look for jobs, apply. Like I said, networking, getting referrals is almost a requirement nowadays. And the interview process at Microsoft was first a screening by a recruiter, so an HR person that says like, hey, did you actually do these things? Do you have this experience? Sort of the minimum qualifications that will be listed in the job description. And then from there, Microsoft usually does 3 to 4 interviews. They like to do it all in one day or across a couple of days, depending on the scheduling. For the role I have, which is Cloud Solution Architect, it was one kind of behavioral interview, one business interview, and then one technical interview. So they did ask me questions about, what data systems, structures are you familiar with? What Microsoft products have you used? And I can talk more about that if people are specifically interested in Microsoft. Oh, I don't know what this is. Let's start voting. Oh. I don't even know what that lets you guys do. Are you able to vote on the responses? How do grads without internships? Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm an introvert at heart, so like me reaching out to people and talking to people was a lot of work. So new grads, if you don't have internships or connections, you find internships or connections. That's unfortunately, I feel like the best advice. And then how do you do that, right? So LinkedIn is huge and it's going to be even bigger because your brand and who you are as an individual is going to matter more and more in the age of AI. I've seen people grow their brand on LinkedIn, and that's how they get noticed beyond even referrals. So if you're on LinkedIn, and I'll share this too, let me put it in the chat, anyone with the link. So, okay, internships. You can find ones, obviously, depending on your requirements, where you are, and if it pays something. If you're not able to do that, look at technical projects you can do on your own, especially things that are exciting to you. So one thing that I did was work with Humane Intelligence. There's this organization where you do pretty much like CS type projects, whether it's AI or anomaly detection, some data science stuff. They have a lot of ways people can participate in what's going on in AI right now. So having some project that you can talk about is super helpful for interviews, for networking, for coffee chats. Because one, I was like genuinely interested in how to make AI work for everyone, how to make it for social impact in a better way. And so having that genuine passion for it, I think came across in how I talked about it. Because often when I talk to people, sometimes they kind of are just talking about what they think I want to talk about, or they're asking the same questions over and over again. I think that authenticity piece and having something you're genuinely interested in is so useful, because at the end of the day, people are going to be interested in something interesting. And so if you find it interesting, I love hearing about people's like passionate projects. And so that's one thing that would stand out in coffee chats. When to ask for a referral, that is definitely a hard question. It really depends on how the conversation went. If the person seems open and they are giving you suggestions and already providing you people to connect with, then I think you can ask for a referral almost right away or right after. If they don't give you people to connect with. That's one thing you always want to end a conversation with, a coffee chat or networking conversation is, hey, do you have anyone else that I should reach out to that you recommend talking to? And so that's the second piece of building out your network. But if they don't offer you a referral, it's not necessarily that they don't want to, but they might not be the right person for that. So often I get asked to do a referral, but it's not for a role that I'm familiar with. You know, I'm just one person at Microsoft. My referral honestly isn't going to help you for this other role that much. So first, find the right person. When you're having that conversation, they're already judging you for positions if they have them in mind. And then, like I said, it doesn't hurt to ask right away. The worst they can do is say no. Like, they know you're already looking for a role. I don't get mad if people ask me for a referral. It's just a matter of making sure that I know they're aligned to that position, that it'll actually be a good recommendation. They have done some work or project that I can at least know they're good at that. So that's another reason to have that project or community thing that you're doing. Okay, so referrals, I think that's answered, but if you have more questions, let me see. Please keep going. Frontier AI, how do you build immediate technical? Ooh, I love this question. Yes, I always tell my partner, my husband, that like I wish I had a man's audacity. Like, I would be ruling the world if I had his confidence and ability to just say what he thinks. In the military, I had to, you know, fake it as I go along. Fake that confidence, fake that surety, and then honestly, that's what most people are doing anyways. They're faking it. So I definitely had to do that both in the military and even now. I work a lot with customers directly answering questions, and obviously a lot of men at Microsoft in engineering roles especially. So I know what I'm an expert in. So if I know something, it's obviously easier for me to be confident and, you know, give my opinion, give answers. If I'm not confident in something, I just own up to that. Like, hey, I don't know about that. Let me look into it and come back. So I think it's differentiating those two circumstances of when I know something, like I'm gonna go full in, full confidence, and you know, if I'm 90% right, that's pretty good. And then if I don't, then I don't pretend to be. I make sure that I say, you know, I have to look more into that. So that's two of the ways that I think as a woman you get judged more for your answers, and so I've learned to split it like that. That way, I can be more confident and have the audacity that men have. Yeah, so cloud solution architect, I'll get into, I think, on another slide. So if you're doing computer science or data science and you like the technical aspect, but you also want to work with people, strategy, the business part, cloud solution architect is the connection of those two. So specifically, my role is in the customer success unit, which is basically sales. So sometimes I know I was put off by, you know, sales jobs, but actually an architect role is, for me, fun because I get to use my technical skills to showcase stuff to customers. So I still get to build stuff, work with the latest in AI, but I have to do the second piece of translating that to actual business outcomes and business requirements. And if the customer is asking for this, how to connect it to our products. So a lot of the careers on the engineering side are in product engineering, in technical program management, obviously more of the CS roles if you've seen for software engineering. And then there's the other side of the business that's more tied to the revenue, which is actually integrating and implementing those products. And so that's where cloud solution architects come in. In AI, you might see forward deployed engineers. embedded engineers. There's a lot of different names for it, but those are roles that are basically responsible for taking the tech and making it actually usable and useful in a very defined way, rather than just sending something to someone and telling them to download it and figure it out. That's usually doesn't work at big customers, enterprise levels. I think that's one career path that will be pretty reliable in the future. Because it's tied to sales, it's more secure than other jobs. I'm sure you guys are seeing that on the product engineering side. There's fluctuation in how many engineers are required, what that job stability looks like. But one of the best advice I got is that the more you're tied to the money part, the revenue part, the more secure your job is. So obviously it's a balance of stability and the kind of things you like doing, but that's my role and why I like it. Feeling that you should know more than you go. Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned in school for me, both undergrad and graduate, it was definitely imposter syndrome, and I felt like the dumbest person ever. And then one thing I've learned since then is that even Michelle Obama had imposter syndrome. If you guys haven't read her book or her podcast that she just came out with, everyone struggles with feeling like they know enough, are smart enough, even Michelle Obama. So I tell myself that whenever I start to doubt myself, is like, yes, I might be behind. I'm not doing this or that, but I'm going to keep going and do my best. And that's all we can do, right? Like, at the end of the day, as long as we tried our best, that's what kept moving me forward when I had those definitely same thoughts exactly. Okay, that one was already. Ooh, yeah, international is definitely harder. I see a lot of jobs, they all say the visa requirement, and then same thing for referrals or internships. If you're coming from international side, it's absolutely harder. Unfortunately, I don't know too much about that side of it, but I know for some of my friends, they had to go through, different paths. So a lot of them did graduate school, which has a little bit more opportunities for international while you're looking for a job, or they had to look at different companies that just had that visa sponsorship. So sorry, I don't know too much about that to help with other international advice. Okay, I think we answered that one. What was that? Okay. All right. Oh, favoritism. Okay. Yes. So, I feel like there's no way to get past, like middle school drama of like there's always going to be like the popular kid or like the favorite person. I definitely see this even in the work I've done in the military and the work I do at Microsoft now. That there's certain people they're just favored, they're more like the manager in whatever type of way, and so they get not really preferential treatment, but you could just tell. And so I'm trying to think. The way I've always dealt with it is, doing my best work and knowing that that was still better than, most people's. Even if they were the favorite and they did things a certain way, I'm gonna do it my way. And, sometimes it ended up being better. So I try not to focus too much on, this person keeps getting highlighted or these opportunities. But okay, here's the work I'm doing, and I'm gonna ask for things too. So that's another way to deal with favoritism in the workplace is that usually it's people are afraid to ask for stuff. Like I was at the start for sure, but then I started, telling my manager like, "Hey, is there an opportunity to do this? Can I travel for this?" Or even outside stuff specifically for my role, I just signed up for a conference and went and to meet people to advance my my network, my understanding of the industry. So you have to also go out on your own if you're not given those opportunities. Definitely ask for them. Don't be afraid to ask. And if your manager isn't helping with that, um, there's usually some sort of groups in organizations like at Microsoft. There's employee resource groups, other ways to find mentors that you can then ask them. That way you don't go around your manager. There's definitely different ways of handling the favoritism part, and if you don't have a good relationship with your manager, finding other mentors is going to be super useful. Okay, cool. I think that was most of them. Come back to them. Oh, okay, so yeah, a little bit more into Microsoft. So like I said, if you see architect role, at Microsoft, at AWS, Google, or AI companies, you're pretty much looking at a role that's an integration of whatever STEM focus and then the sales part, like I mentioned. So as an AI architect, what I do day to day is about 70% talking to customers and figuring out what requirements they have, what's the best solution for them. A lot of just like customer relationship management of what do you think about this new option? How is this project going? And then based on that, they might want to learn more about multi-agents. They want to learn about the latest model available. So then I have to go back, do that research, do that work with my colleagues, with other Microsoft resources, and provide those answers. So that's the 70% of that like customer trusted advisor role. That's like the architect part of it, is that you figure out all these little pieces of how to actually get this technology working. And then the 30% of the other role is the actual technical skilling. So we do have a lot of certifications we have to get, labs, and actual hands-on work that one that you have to do, but that you're that it's good to do to keep up with what the latest technology is, so you can actually talk about it. So that's like roughly the split of what an architect does. It definitely varies by position. Sometimes some architects are way more technical. Some are way more program management, doing more of that management side. It really depends on what the team needs, what the organization needs. But just to highlight that that's what I'm doing day to day, and that I like it because it's a mix of the technical plus that policy people side. Okay, another question to you guys. Guess how many employees are at Microsoft in magnitude of 100K? All right, while you guys are putting in your answers, let me look at this question. Okay, all questions answered. Okay, cool. I am a data person at heart, so I love collecting data. If anyone else is a numbers, math, geek, nerd, that's kind of how I started, and it's useful for AI because at the end of the day, it's almost like a number generator, really. And one of the things I like about data is that a lot of things tend to have normal distributions, like even things in nature. So if you've ever read about like math books, Math and Nature, it just reminds me of this, seeing the normal curve they have for us here. So yeah, I just put this up here because Microsoft is a huge company, obviously. There's so many different types of roles, and it's going to vary so much by what the focus is of that day in AI. So I wanted to highlight that I work at enterprise tech, and that's going to be very different than a startup or a smaller company. So what I say might not apply to all companies or your experiences at other places. Let's see. Most internships for new grads. Post-grad internships. Yeah, I think a lot of the internships I mentioned are while you're at in school for sure. The NASA one I mentioned is while you're in school. Um, Let me check. That one, I'll have to look into the ideas that I have right now would be to, if you can, do those side projects or volunteer work with organizations, like I mentioned, Humane Intelligence. I did that while I was at my internship, just to have that experience. And then look across other companies you wouldn't think of that are doing tech. So, for example, I work with a lot of financial services customers, and they have a lot of technical roles within that company, which I didn't expect, especially in financial services. As you can imagine, cybersecurity is huge, data privacy, AI is now becoming huge. So I didn't even think to look at those companies for technical roles, but that could be another route. Oh yeah, definitely. Certificates. I'm so glad you asked this question. That was one of the main things I wanted to actually cover. Microsoft is huge on certificates, certifications, credentials. Um, so the link is on there. You can go to see the credentials, and they have like paths that you can create if you want to be like an AI engineer versus an infrastructure person, so more focused on networking. I know with CS you can go so many different routes, and this is one way to learn about what those career paths look like and what training is specifically required for each of those paths. So that's super useful. If you're interested in, let me see, where's the credentials specifically? In AI, the one that is required for an architect is AZ305. It basically covers broad base how to use cloud services, how to integrate AI data solutions. I'm working on getting that one right now. It's pretty hard, but that could be that if you want to be an architect, that's exactly how you get there. Do that one, you'll probably get a job as an architect. There's other ones. If you see 900 levels, those are like the fundamentals that are really good intros to start with. If you want to be super technical, like a system admin, oh, I think they named it something else. Let me check. Okay, yeah. So an administrator is a really good role because every single time you use any type of IT, you need someone that administers it. So this could be from the security side, from the IT side, but this is, I think, like almost a niche section that a lot of people skip over. But if you get certs in this, companies are looking for this all the time. So I definitely recommend looking at the Microsoft certs. Obviously, I know about those. I'm biased. But there are also other certifications, directly from Anthropic to be an architect, or OpenAI. Or I think I put other ones here. Let me see. Okay, yeah, the AI company learning paths. There's open courses from institutions like MIT and Stanford. They host those on OpenCourseWare, edX, and then even if you don't get certifications, because obviously they require money, time, if you want to do something similar that's equally valued in the industry, your own GitHub page, your own project on Kaggle or Hugging Face, that's a really good way to show, like, hey, I know the stuff that's in the certification. I couldn't take it for whatever reason, but here's exactly how I'm able to use it. Here's an exact demo of what I can do. That's especially useful when you're going to jobs. If you have that as just something to reference in your answers, it makes it so much easier to do interview questions. Okay, cool. Let's do correct answer 228. Okay, that's how many people at Microsoft. I also point that out because it felt overwhelming at first to get into Microsoft, and I get to go to events like Microsoft Build if you haven't seen it. Just interacting with so many people was both overwhelming, but really opened my eyes to, once you get into the tech industry, all the opportunities that come about. So the one thing I want to mention here is definitely look out for conferences, professional organizations. I've talked a little bit about volunteering and side projects, but those are just other ways to network, to meet people, to know what's going on in the industry, and that I've gotten the opportunity to do this. Obviously, based out of New York City. If you're closer to a city, it's easier, but there are some online opportunities as well. Okay, cool. As we're nearing the end, um, I can answer any other questions you guys can put in the chat or on this Menti thing. And we can do this quick poll. That way I know, like I said, I love data. What part of a career story did you actually find interesting? So I can improve. So, I know what to cover next time. If you guys have more questions, that Google Doc is live and I can update it. I think you guys can comment on it if you want to comment and ask for any other resources or like, hey, what do you recommend for this XYZ? Cool. Yeah, I like how Menti does the data visualization too. If you guys are into data visualization, that was like my focus for some time, that I also thought was really fun, that I'm always happy to talk about. Yeah, career pivots, super important. I know for, I don't want to say generations now, it's so much more important to always be looking for a job. I'm doing that now, even if I'm at Microsoft. One, because I think it makes me feel safer in terms of like job security. Two, I know what's going on in the industry. Like I learn actually from just looking at the jobs and talking to people in interview loops or however, so that the career pivots part, just always have that in the back of your mind of like, oh, okay, what's this company doing? Like, let me apply or reach out to a recruiter, just to learn. It's more data points, more data you have, which is super useful. Yeah, there's so many things that I wish I knew, and I genuinely want to share them with people. I get reached out to by LinkedIn, and it's hard to, obviously talk back, answer, talk with everyone. But I do want to share my lessons learned, and this is super useful to get your guys' feedback on, okay, what's actually useful and what is still relevant today. Since again, you guys are in a totally different environment in terms of careers and job opportunities. So hopefully some of this is helpful. Okay, cool. Let me just check. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, that was the main slides I had. If you guys have questions on some of these links, definitely let me know. And this page will be live, so like if you guys want to add stuff to it to share amongst each other too, I can add on to that. And yeah, reach out to me for any further questions. Like I mentioned, side projects, even if you can't find internships, certifications, there's honestly like so many resources out there for AI. I think just gathering them in one place is useful, so hopefully this is useful to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabby.
Thanks,
Oh,
Emily.
there's a little bit of an echo. Okay, but yeah, we will have this session recorded and posted on YouTube. And thank you so much for sharing all of those extras.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fun talking to y'all. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.